All right, looks good. Hello, everybody. Doesn't look like anybody's quite joined on Insta yet. First group of Instagrams. Got notification that I'm live in multiple spots. Looks like it's working. Here we go. Comes down 3. Oh, I don't know who my sponsor. Thursday edition. Who's sponsoring today? 827. Intercap, SOS Solutions, and of course, Sharemark Auto. Okay. Comes down in 3, 2, 1. It is Locked On Jazz for the 27th of August. The NBA will continue. A boycott by the Bucks puts everything on hold. Our NBA players growing up before our eyes, the new civil rights leaders. We'll talk about it all, break it all down, and more on today's edition of Locked On Jazz. Pow! How are you? I'm David Locke, radio voice of the Utah Jazz, Jazz NBA insider. This is Locked On Jazz, your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz, giving you insight, expertise, geeky numbers, and hopefully making it way better to be a Jazz fan each and every day. Hope you're doing great. Thanks very much. We are live today. Big day, lots going on. World stopped because of the NBA. So we're going to go live today. We're live on Twitch. We're live on Periscope. We're live on Facebook. We're live on YouTube on Locked On Live. Thanks. Please subscribe on all of those formats and follow all of our other great Locked On hosts. Also, we'll be bringing you live shows when the news is appropriate and all taking place for you. I got some camera straightening out to do here for you. The microphone is kind of dominating the Instagram Live, but I think we got it for everyone here. All right, I want to just, let's start off. So here's where we stand. The latest is that we will be playing NBA basketball still this year, that the playoffs will continue. The Jazz still lead the Nuggets 3-2. We still have a big Game 6 coming. We don't know when. It feels like either Saturday or Sunday at this point, that the games today have been postponed. And so tomorrow I'll dig in. Tomorrow we'll really get back to probably breaking down the series and talking about that, and seeing what we can have, what we can bring to the table in getting you back to basketball. Today, we can talk some of the series in our live chat, but also kind of get your thoughts and feelings about what's taking place. It was a crazy day yesterday. Ben Golliver joined me for Locked On NBA and had incredible stories about what it was like to be there yesterday. So please feel free to jump aboard and grab Locked On NBA today. So let me just kind of get my thoughts on this and where we sit. Like, the Bucks, it's pretty unbelievable. Like, without the rest of the league involved, without the ownership involved, pretty gutsy, decided to boycott an NBA game. And pretty wild decision-making choice. I mean, when you think back at the great civil rights leaders at least in the 60s, those were, religious leaders who were born leaders of people who, and they were like, if you've read Parting the Waters by Taylor Branch, one of the most unbelievable, great books you'll ever read, these are hard decisions and divisive, and they're not sure what the right route is. And now we got NBA guys making a lot of these same decisions right now. And it's remarkable to see them do this. And frankly, they accomplished, I think, what they wanted to accomplish. We're all talking about it today. The news world, the world media, everything stopped and is talking about social injustice, police brutality, and the NBA boycotting. Might agree with it or disagree, but everyone's talking about it. Let's not forget for 1 minute, by the way, that the civil rights movement of the 60s, which looks in 2020 landscape pretty easy to support and makes a whole lot of sense, had lines of people on the streets throwing things at these kids when they were going into schools, and signs that would just make you cringe today. Like, it's not uncommon for a movement to have dissent. I feel like there's a group of I can't believe. No, this is how it works. It's incredible. And to have these guys be the ones that are doing it is amazing. I know George Hill well. I promise you George Hill was a major, major factor in this. He has that personality. He never stops talking about stuff. He's always moving. George Hill was a major factor in that. Sterling Brown, if you have not read the Sterling Brown story of the Milwaukee Bucks, Sterling Brown, because he parked illegally across 2 handicapped spots, ended up getting thrown to the ground, having a knee on his neck, having someone on his ankle, and being put in jail. That's not happening to me. All right, I'm going to get really personal here for a second. I'm not sure I was ever going to tell this story, but I'm going to tell this story. It's what this is about. So we are hearing, I am learning so much by listening. And I generally think of myself as someone who's pretty informed, pretty knowledgeable, incredibly well-read. I'm learning. I didn't have enough exposure. I didn't know enough. I did not understand what it's like to be a black man in America. I didn't get it. I didn't. I'm 50 years old. I didn't understand. I'm sorry. I didn't get it. I just didn't. I'm trying to be openly honest about this fact. I just didn't understand. I haven't had enough exposure. I grew up in an upper class white neighborhood. My exposure I've always talked about as being that of playing sports with teammates that were black, and so I didn't care about their color because I just cared if I was on second base, if they drove me in, or if they made the play in left field after somebody rocked it off a hanging curveball and they bailed me out. That's all I cared about. That's true. That is 100% true. And so in that sense, I think I've treated most people I've interacted with as fair eyes as I could, but I didn't get the plight. I didn't understand where they were coming from and what their experiences are. And I'm trying to learn that right now. But let me share a crazy story. It shows I'm an idiot, but it also shows the difference. This is 1986, maybe 87, maybe 88. I lived in a town in where a lot of the police activity was worrying about whether you rolled stop signs. There was a spot they always sat at to make sure that you didn't roll a major stop sign. I knew it. They had been there for my whole life. We'd always seen it. It's always been a part of our life. Like the cops sat at this stop sign. I came to that stop sign, had something in my front seat. It rolled off my front seat, so I stopped early. Put my foot on the brake. Might even had to pull the old emergency brake and went to go get whatever it was that was spilling in the front seat of the car. Remembered thinking to myself, wow, I stopped pretty early. If that cop's there, he's going to not be able to see through the trees that I came to a stop early and I went through the stop sign. Comes and pulls me over. I pop out of my car, run to the police officer's car, and start pleading my case, saying, I just stopped early, something fell out my car, I've lived here for 15 years, I know that you stop there every day, and that you're always there, I knew you were there, da, da, da. I got out of my car, ran to the police car, and started yelling at him. I'm an idiot. I am an idiot. But I thought I could do it. At least to me, when I listen to Doc Rivers and Jimmy Jackson and Chris Webber and Sam Mitchell and Robert Horry all talk about the talks they've had to have with their children, all of them, like, I don't know why this mattered. Again, this is my ignorance. I'm just being honest today. I'm hoping we're all going to be honest. I'm hoping you don't treat me less because I'm honest. All of those guys, 10 years in the league, I might have thought, I probably thought that if they spend 10 years in the league and make that kind of money, that maybe it vaults them out of some of this. No, it doesn't, because they're still black. Every day they're black. That's their point. And it's exhausting. And those 5 guys all tell stories yesterday about talking to their kids about dealing with police and what it's like to be black in America and what they perceive to be black in America, or what it's like. Either one, doesn't matter. And I have that story, and I remember that story. Oh my gosh. I'm an idiot. But I live a different world. That's what this is all about. Sorry, I'm derailed here. This is not solely about Kenosha, Wisconsin. This is not solely about George Floyd. This is not solely about Breonna Taylor. This is about the way they all feel all the time, and it's exhausting. Listen to David Aldridge on the Athletic NBA podcast today. Yeah, that's our biggest competition. I don't give a shit. Excuse me. I don't give a darn. Go listen to it. Don't subscribe. Gosh forbid. Like, I'm not going to be that nice. I'm just kidding. Sorry, I swore a minute ago. I'm going to leave it. All right. So the first, I'm all over the map. I think, let me just try to be actually a decent host here instead of just a rambling conversation, but I'm going to get to your questions and everything. I think the Bucks accomplished a ton. I read a bunch of things yesterday where everybody was saying, like, well, what are they trying to accomplish? I think they accomplished a ton. I don't think they know exactly what they're doing. This isn't a marketing plan where you know that A leads to B and B leads to C and C leads to D. This isn't a product launch. This isn't the CEO of a company running. This is a protest, and they evolve, and they move along, and they move along fast. And these guys decided in about an hour yesterday, or maybe 2, in the locker room, 2 of the Bucks players went out to warm up. So in about an hour that they weren't playing. And then they moved to the next step, which is then they had this meeting last night, which was totally disorganized and combative and overly emotional. And the Lakers and Clippers ran out, and then they slept on, they brought it back together. They're living all of this in real time. But this is what a protest is. If you've read about the civil rights movements of the past, this is what's so incredible. Is if you've read these books of the past of the civil rights movements, that was the same thing that was going on with the Southern Leadership Committee. This is the same thing that was going on with all of these groups, the NAACP at the time. There was discombobulation and there was internal fights, and it was happening by the minute, and they weren't sure. And sure, some of them were incredibly well organized, like the Selma March, but once it happened, they didn't know what was happening next and what the next day was. And that's what our NBA players are doing right now. And they led the entire sports world. 12, 15 Milwaukee Bucks players in a locker room in an hour, probably led by George Hill, turned this thing and suddenly made it a nationwide protest. And it's all anyone's talking about today. It's kind of, no, it's not sort of incredible. It's amazing. And we're watching a group of young men understand, learn, and exert their power. It's amazing. It might be really uncomfortable. There might be parts of it you don't support. There might be aspects of it you don't like. But the fact of the matter is, it's all about trying to have every American citizen feel as though they have the rights and equal rights under the law, equal justice, and a fairness to what they live. That's what this is about. I got it. There's parts of the Black Lives Matters mantra, portfolio, whatever. I don't love it. Fine. I don't really love that Dr. Martin Luther King had a major communist ties either. I don't care. Because the bigger picture is what I'm going to worry about. And it is so abundantly clear right now that these young men who happen to be world-class basketball players have embraced this incredible challenge to try to change our society in a positive way. And knowing all of them as people and watching what they're doing, I'm amazed and awed by what they're doing. Amazed and awed. Okay? I'm all over the map. I apologize. It's organized. There's a sheet here. that I actually use to try to organize my show, knowing this would probably happen today. You're sitting around for the last 24 hours, and it's not like my brain ever stops, so it's been going nuts. All right, I'll try to I want to get to your questions. I got some more thoughts. We can talk a little Nuggets Jazz, too. I think that's what we do here. It does say Locked on Jazz. That's the show. So let's continue with all that. Today's show is brought to you by Intercap Lending. Intercap Lending has been an amazing member of our community, whether it's the backpacks that they helped out with at the very beginning of the school year this year, getting all the kids backpacks, whether it was the COVID relief campaigns they ran. This is a active, awesome member of our community. Intercap Lending is also where I did my refinance and my mortgage, saved me a bunch of money. They've done amazing work for us. When they first started with us, they had like 3 branches. Now it's 15. Now it's like 30. June of 30th of 2019, they doubled their numbers from the year. They equaled their numbers the year before. June 30th of 2020, they hit their numbers of the year before. Why? Because they get deals done. And that's what makes a lending company valuable. Hyper-responsive, they embrace change. The borrower experience is unique because they're a direct issuer and they still service their own loans. They still have the loan that we did with them right now. Steve Carter is our personal loan officer, is simply the best there is. Call him at 385-800-8528. That's 385-800-8528. That's 385-800-8528. Intercap Lending, NMLS number 190465. For more information, visit intercaplending.com. If you are a small business owner and you're growing and you're doing commerce and you're rolling, you need SOS Support because you need somebody to help your business out, to take care of all the IT needs that you need so that you can focus on the aspects that make you great. SOS can help any business. They have hybrid plans starting at just $10 computer. Fully outsourced plans are customized to your business, and they can provide supplemental IT support for existing IT departments. It's kind of great. So who is SOS Support? Jason started it off along with Scott 17 years ago. They've been in Utah. They've been doing work. Their referral rates are great. And they're primarily for companies that have 5 to 100 employees. And you don't want to spend the hundreds of thousands of dollars you need to get the IT taken care of. So they come in, they become your whole partner, and they help you out with all of your IT so you can move on and do all the things you do great in your business. They'll give you a no obligation IT assessment. Will include a PCI assessment as well if you tell them you're with Locked on Jazz. 801-563-9700. 801-563-9700. They've been in the business for 17 years. Their retention rate is fabulous. They've been helping out companies and doing all sorts of great work. Doctor's office, live manufacturing, molding houses, steel fabrication, high-tech manufacturing, dental offices, law offices. KT Tape's a good client of theirs as well. 801-563-9700. All right, I do want to get to your questions. Let me just check a few notes here. Make sure I didn't hit any of the things I said I was going to. Let's see. I can't read my own writing. Let's see. So basically, Bucks boycott at work. George Hill did that. I'm in awe of what. Yep. All right. I think I hit most of the things I want to hit on. Not in the order or style or fashion but that's not who I am. Do not know anything about game time or tip off or whether it's Saturday. Somebody said to me, great intro, white boy. Like, I actually think, I don't know what the point of that was. Like, but here's the first thing I would say on all of this. You know what the biggest progress piece that we can make on any of these issues is a incredible openness to who we are. That's what I'm trying to represent here. I've had my life experience. Society has given me my life experience. I've had an upper class white experience with every advantage in the world. I've said it a million times when people, congratulations on all your success. I kind of would have sucked if I hadn't had it. I had everything there for me. I worked my ass off, but I had every chance. I think there has to be a non-embarrassment openness to what we've experienced. Like here, I'll be really open. If I'm black, I don't have my job. Okay, like that's simple. Everything else, exact same in my life, but I'm black. All the same effort, all the same work. I don't have my job. You know why? Because there aren't any African-American black radio announcers in the NBA. So like that's just a logical deduction. Maybe I would have been the one that broke through. Seems unlikely. Just be honest about that. Am I embarrassed by it? Should I feel like I don't know what I should do about that? But I should just be honest about it. Let's see. We have back and forth fighting, which can we stop for a minute? I got it. There's a bunch of people out there that are trying to get us to get distracted and get focused and these little tiny issues along the way and destroy. This is about every citizen of America feeling safe, feeling supported, feeling the incredible opportunities that this country grants most of our people. That's what this is about. That's what this is about. I'm not getting into the low-level minutia that's a distraction on these things. I know enough. Again, I've said this a bunch, and I'll continue. I know enough about the Boston Tea Party, the greatest protest of all time, the women's suffrage movement, one of the greatest protests of all time, the civil rights movement of the 60s, that there were problems in all of those groups. And if I wanted to go find it, I could have found it then too. Shouldn't we be calling this a strike, not a boycott? So I don't really know, again, why I care on that. I've gone both ways. Is this become a political issue too that we're going to use to divide us? That if you're for it, you call it a boycott, and you're against it, we call it a strike? They did both. How about we call it a strike and a boycott? And the point was that they felt as though they wanted to draw attention to the fact that as Black men in America, they weren't being treated fairly. I'm kind of just reiterating myself. JB Brown 24/7 is a loyal Twitcher for us. I'm white. I've been choked by police multiple times. The first had guns drawn on my police when I was 12. Your Richie Rich story is ignorance. My story that I told is the dumbest thing I've ever done in my entire life. Absolutely. 100%. Jonathan, I'm glad you didn't get murdered that day. Yeah, I probably should have. I'm just sharing now. Right. But this is a little bit of the point. Landscape place. It's a crazy story. I was a total idiot. Now, I was also probably a pimply-faced 16-year-old right? Let's see if we can get some discussion going here. Alex, when Donovan tweeted out that he does not feel safe, that made me realize that we need to shut up and listen. So here's one thing I think that actually has to really be discussed on this. And I don't have any idea what it is to be a Black man watching these videos. That's Robert Ory and Chris Webber both talked about that yesterday. What I really don't have any idea is what it's like to be a Black man watching these videos in a hotel room in Orlando in a campus/bubble when I can't have any loved ones around me. That I really don't understand and really don't know. That's a large part of this story. I tried to get into that with Ben Golliver. Unfortunately, the Paul George story of the other day gets kind of lost in the shuffle here. Paul George basically saying I was in a dark place. Was he in a dark place because, and then it's hard because as a reporter, how much can you force him to extrapolate that? Was he in a dark place because as a Black man in a hotel in Orlando without any loved ones or support around him, he's watching this video and has an impact on it? Was he in a dark place because he was playing terrible basketball and he was in a hotel in Orlando and he had no way to escape and it was building on it? I don't know. That's a huge story that I think has gotten that is a large part of the intertwined weaving of all of the things that are going on right now, that these guys are in a unique environment in which they are not able to share their fears, their loves, their concerns with the ones they love, or are their support mechanism. And I have to assume that's closing in on them a little bit. And then from a basketball standpoint, we talked about this the whole time before the bubble started, that there is no escape. And I've talked to a lot of the guys in the bubble, and I've seen that a little bit. So that's a huge part of the story that has not been talked about. There's a lot of kind of interplay discussion back and forth here. I'm trying to be very I'm trying to grab, I'm not trying to be a one-sided comment grabber here, but there's a bunch of interplay on our chat room. And I'm not trying to get into that interplay. So I'm picking and choosing a little more than I usually do today. Sean, when LeBron said that he wants the owners to get more involved, what would he like them to do? I think this is a great question, Sean, and I don't know the answer. The owners of these teams are usually the most wealthy, i.e. powerful people in their communities. And so there's a multitude of items that they can do. I'm incredibly excited that the Miller family has decided to open Vivint Arena up as a polling spot. That's great. That's a great step. These are things we should be doing. We should be promoting our democracy. I'm going to find my bosses are pushing me on an idea that I've had for years to try to do something for our underprivileged community that I've had an idea and I put in the back burner, and they kind of basically just said to me recently, it's time for it to go again. Let's go. Okay. So I'm on. What do the owners do? There's incredible possibility of, there's so much, they have the wealth, so they have the power. I don't know, Sean. I'm not well enough versed. And the issues are, right? There is a single police reform issue. There's a education reform issue. The wealth gap is unbelievable. The story out of Brookings Institute yesterday about a family who had their home appraised with pictures of their black family around, and then had them appraised later without their black family involved, and it was $70,000 more. Now I think it was a different appraiser, so there's a little noise in that, but it's eye-opening. So I think that's I don't have a good answer, Sean, and maybe they don't either. And maybe that has to be part of the discussion that's going to take place with the owners is, what can we do? What can you do? What are you willing to do? It's really interesting, the subtle lines of where how far each organization's willing to go. The Knicks are just absolutely not willing to give the players any credit for anything they're doing. Other organizations are simply not willing to mention police brutality. Other organizations are just mentioning it all. So each owner is different in where they're going to be comfortable going as well. Makes it complicated. Back to basketball. Weird that you asked Booner if the Jazz had the game barely in the bag early in the third quarter. True. I am guilty of charged on that. I asked. He said no. Maybe that's actually that I am guilty as charged that I asked the question. Maybe that's actually good broadcasting, right? Maybe. I don't know. The fact that a lot of fans thought, we're up 15 in the third, we're going to win it. And I asked Ron, and he said no. Could be good broadcasting. Just a thought. Or I could have been really wrong that I didn't say that I thought it was in the bag. I just kept asking Ron if it was in the bag. So you can decide whether you think that was weird that I did that or whether it might have been actually what broadcasters do to tell a story. From Twitch, do you know what NBA players want the NBA to do exactly? Do the players even have a plan at this time or what they want? Or are they still figuring it out? This is a great question. And this is interesting to me to watch how people deal with the answer to this question, because this is kind of what I said earlier. Like, I think it's all evolving. The Bucks, and that's what a protest is. And again, like, I only know what I know from reading and studying, and that's what most protests have been. They're evolving organisms. And this one evolved into the Milwaukee Doc Rivers kind of. Chris Paul and LeBron had their say after games, and Doc Rivers had his say, and the Bucks decided we're not playing. It kept going. And then what does that mean? Well, then the Bucks took 2.5 hours to release a statement. It was talk to the Attorney General and the Lieutenant Governor of Michigan on the phone for a long time. Excuse me, Milwaukee, not Michigan. Came out with their statement. Then there was the players' meeting. Well, that went. This is how it happens. So I don't know. What the NBA players want is support in getting equality of life experience and safety for Black people in America. That's what they want. Is there a plan? Probably not. Is that a bad thing? No. Should it? Like, again, it's not a product launch. They don't know this is going to this, going to this. And nor did the great Martin Luther King, Abernathy, Jesse, any of the great leaders of the civil rights movement. They didn't know either. It's a great question. There was something I really wanted to mention today. Oh, I'm really glad they're playing. I'm glad they've decided to play. I think they've done a marvelous job of keeping the social justice issue going while playing. While, as Doc Rivers says, your power is your brilliance. They've shown their brilliance. Boy, have they ever. The games have been amazing. The league's been incredible. They've offended a huge amount of people. Fine. They seem to be fine with it. There's going to be an impact to it. And they've also kept the social justice issue going at the same time. What I don't know, and I asked Ben Golliver this on the show last night on Locked On NBA, you can get it today, is do they know that? I'm beginning to think that inside the bubble, they think they're not being heard. I think and maybe my bubble is so extreme that I think they're being heard. Wow, we're at 31 minutes. I didn't even realize that. Today's show is brought to you by my good friend, Rob Taylor. And Shamrock Auto live shows. Rob coming through for us, sponsoring the live show. He's out at Shamrock Auto. Shamrock Auto is a neat company. Rob started Shamrock Auto many years back with Brady Kimball. Again, the first thing he said, I don't love the way. He didn't love his car experience. So he wanted to start a new company with barely used cars, 6 to 12 months old, 5 to 20,000 miles. And the first thing he actually did that was kind of cool is he went and got himself Brady Kimball, who's a technician for over 25 years, and said, I want you to be the one who goes and buys our cars so we know how good they are. And then buy these nearly new used cars and get them out there. So if you're considering purchasing a car or truck, Shamrock Auto's got a nearly new used car for you. You can call Rob at 801-319-2250. Specialize in all sorts of automobiles, and his favorite customers are the ones that either come from out of state or the ones that call him up and say, hey, I'm looking for this. Can you go find it? He'll get you a better car, no drama, no hassle, great pricing, get you in the truck, sedan, or Utah County assault vehicle that you need. He promises you that they're a lean company with fewer employees than everyone else. They can't afford to take a long time, so it's quick, fast. Get it done. Go read the reviews, see what they are, no gimmicks. It's Shamrock Auto, 801-319-2250, out in Pleasant Grove, 319-2250, 801-319-2250. All right, let's go to the questions some more, and then we'll wrap this up quickly. Will the Jazz be able to be a better defensive team? It's been weird to be an offensive team. They are not a very good defensive team in this series. That is true. And I've thought the whole time that if they did not get better defensively, that we were going to have a series, and we now have a series. Back to the social. I don't understand why there's no talk of these people that don't follow the directions of the authorities. I think the issue is the unfair, fair question. I think the issue, but I don't know because I'm probably not well enough prepared to be a spokesperson for all this, is that there's a feeling of unfair treatment based on race, depending if you don't follow those authorities. That seems to be those directions. I think that seems to be the issue. It does seem like the players will rightfully pressure the owners to use their connections for change. Do we think the Millers will be open to this? I mean, I think Gail has been pretty open to trying to better our society at all times. The Miller family motto is continue to do good until there's enough good in the world. So if it falls under that motto, I suspect the Millers to be 100% supportive of that. And, you know, I think that's very consistent to who the Miller family has been throughout all of this. Yeah, I mean, whether it's incredible donations to the homeless, whether it's their education campaigns. I know that, you know, Gail and Kip, her new husband, that's their core of who they are as people. So I would hope so. I think this matches who they are as people. Would be my thought on that. It's a good question though. You know, I think teams are going to have to get very diverse or players aren't going to sign with them. Players, good for them. The players are feeling themselves. They feel their power. You know, really, if the point of a protest is to get us to think about it and talk about it, this is great. I don't know if I've done a good enough job like facilitating conversation, but I'm also not sure that I'm actually well enough, you know, versed on all the way to fill conversation. I can share my experiences, my thoughts, and I'm trying to do that, and hopefully that leads to it. Here's a different point of view. Margaret says, I'm aboard. My adult son insists it's not race, only economic. Blake happened because he resisted. There's certainly an economic component of it, but when you hear, at least this is my thought, this is kind of what struck me in the last 24 hours, Doc Rivers, Sam Mitchell, Robert Horry, Jimmy Jackson, all talking about the fear they have and how they have to parent their kids. That's not economics. Right? Sterling Brown, Milwaukee Bucks player, getting thrown to the ground and, you know, ending up in jail for parking in a handicap spot for 3 minutes outside of a Walgreens is not economics. Mo Harkless's Instagram account today is about a story about him going to the arena with his 15 and 17-year-old nephews, coming out of a neighborhood and getting pulled over and being somewhat harassed, and not badly, until the cop gets his license and then goes back and realizes it's Mo Harkless, Portland Trailblazers. And the cop basically is trying to figure out, like, is this your car? How do you own this car? How do you buy this car? That's not happening to the 29-year-old tech wizard leaving that same neighborhood who's white. It's just not. So your son has some truth to what he's probably saying, that there's an economic component to it, but we did a Black Lives Round. I'm just sharing my experiences or what I've learned. We did a Black Lives Roundtable that you may have heard on the Lockdown Podcast Network. All 8 of our hosts had experiences. I don't think if I get my 8 white friends together, we have experiences that match that. Keith Pompey is driving home in Philadelphia. He's the Philadelphia Inquirer beat writer. He's 40 some odd years old. He gets pulled over because he's in a nice neighborhood as a black man driving a decent car. And the cop basically is harassing him, telling him, I don't believe that you write for the paper. Show it to me. Prove it to me. And Keith has to literally get out he shows him his press passes. He goes, I don't buy that. And he literally has to get out his cell phone and show him his bylines. And then the guy lets him go, which means he never did anything wrong in the first place, and then tails him for the next mile. Like, I don't think that that's economics. I don't think, gosh, I'm out of my league a little bit on some of this stuff, but I don't think it's our time to be deciding what it is. I think it's our time to listen, and it sure seems to me that every black man I've listened to tells the same story. And so I'm going to listen to that rather than try to devalue their story. Thought. Book suggestion. I like that. The Hate You Give. It's a novel, but gave me perspective on Black lives in America. Okay, thank you. I was at a golf course the other day, and a guy, after the guy came up to me and stuck his fingers in my chest 3 times and hit me in the chest 3 times about the players kneeling at the anthem. Which was interesting because I wasn't kneeling at the anthem, but they were. So I got the 3 pokes in the chest. It wasn't very good social distancing either, by the way. And then I got a book suggestion that I can't remember what it was. I ordered it on Amazon. I haven't read it. I am right there with you, the fan. This was on Twitch. I am kind of just ready for them to come with something productive now that they have everyone's attention. I think the players will try to do that. But they don't actually, this is a little bit of what I think is important in this conversation. I don't think you actually have to have that to start the protest. That's actually not consistently how it's been done, right? And protests emerge, right? If we go back to the civil rights movement, like it started, right, with the children, David Halberstam's amazing book, The Children, in the, what was it? I don't think it was a Walgreens. It was a wall something at the ice cream counter, right? So that's where that first started. Off Brown versus Board of Education, which was 56, I think. And now we're into 66, 67, 68. Long time. Andrew, I did not see what Deloy Hansen said about the RSL players boycotting. Kent Turpin, this is history. Our athletes in our country have sway with a lot of people, white and black. The worst thing they could do is just stop playing. In the end, there would be cease to be press. I think they made a good choice today. I think they have the attention of a lot of people. Even if it's bad attention, they have attention. All right, guys, we are way over the time. This is a great conversation. I super appreciate you. I hope there was value to today. Somebody mentioned White Fragility. It's the most popular book out there. Do I know if the Lakers and Clippers are going to return to play? I hope they can make a difference. If they do not return, I respect the decision. They are returning to play. I believe everyone's returning to play. We've been on for 45 minutes, so I don't have any idea what's happening. So in summation, and the last thing, pretty incredible day. Got us talking. Historic day. Amazing. Led by NBA players. I don't know, to me, political leaders, civil rights leaders, church leaders have been the people that have led movements. This is incredible. I tip my hat to them. I've been amazed at how well they have handled all of this the whole time. We'll get back to basketball. Protests evolve and emerge. There don't have to be answers. I'd say we listen. And the last thing I'd say is you had 2.5 hours set aside today to watch Jazz basketball. So maybe take the time to read some of the articles. Howard Bryant, I tweeted out a bunch of them. Jerry Brewer, Washington Post. Maybe read those. Go watch Brian Stevenson's YouTube about the criminal justice system. Maybe see if we open your ears a little bit, eyes, mind, learn. I've learned a ton. I thought I was very well informed. I thought I was really, really understanding. I've learned an awful lot. I think all of us can learn a lot. Thank you. Appreciate it.